Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Wednesday webinar. The name again is Brian Tully of Tully Law Group. I am the founder and managing partner here in the Tully Law Group. We have a special interview today with Megan Shergill, who is a rock star out there for everybody that knows home care and the concept of aging in place, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So what I'll do, like we always do, is just give it a few more minutes for people to register, or rather to log on, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right, hold on. All right, everybody. So we are back, and we are joined today by Megan Shergill. So, Megan, are you there somewhere? Where are you?
Sure
There,
am.
there she
Hi.
is. Welcome, Megan. So, by way of introduction again, I am Brian Tully, and I'm the founder and managing partner here at Tully Law Group. And we are an elder care and estate planning law firm, have been doing this work for nearly 27 years. We're based in Melville and Riverhead and Northport Village, and we've been serving New Yorkers from New York City throughout Suffolk County again for over 20 years. We're fortunate today to have Megan Shergill with us, and she is the vice president of CDPAP services, which we'll learn about today, at Community Care Home Health Services. She promotes independence to New Yorkers by providing the education, the tools, and the opportunity to enroll in those CDPAP services with community care. It's an alternative home care program for individuals who have community Medicaid. Megan began her career in healthcare over 15 years ago, first starting as a direct support professional for individuals with special needs, providing them with physical assistance with the activities of daily living, which is something we talk about a lot here. And that was within their homes and within residential facility settings. She then transitioned into home care, having served in different roles ranging from scheduling coordinator and then as operations manager, then as director, and now ultimately as a vice president of the CDPAP services for community care. Megan studied special education at St. John's University and truly spends her time advocating for arguably some of the most vulnerable communities that we have, both the elderly and those with special needs. So once again, Megan, welcome. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you again. And can you
I,
hear me? There we
of
go.
course,
Here we go.
I appreciate you having me, Brian. I always love being your guest. You're such a warm host. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Very cool. So what I want to do is share with our viewers today, and we do have a good amount of people out there watching, Different concepts and questions and topics about how people can age in place, and that's what we're talking about now. As an elder care law firm, we deal with this every day, and we work with great companies and people like yourself in helping people to make this aging in place a true reality. And what we'll do is we'll go through our topics and we'll talk a little bit. But if any of our viewers have questions, feel free to put them into the chat box or the question, the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to them at the end for sure. All right. So first and foremost, Megan, what inspired you to work in home health care? How did you get into all this so many years ago?
Home care, healthcare is not for the faint of heart, am I right? And I know your team knows that.
Yeah.
When I was very young, I had the opportunity to volunteer at a special needs program, like a summer school, and I got to meet the different families and learn the nuances of the special needs community.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when I started. I got certified to be a direct support professional,
Mhm.
a community habilitation specialist for
Mhm.
children and adults with special needs. And as I got into that, I was like, late teens, early 20s, and I realized it's great work to be done, but it's not sustainable long term, at least for me physically, with
Mm.
some of the injurious behavior towards themselves and others. So I wanted to be able to help more families at a greater capacity, and that's really where I kind of segued then into home care. And I know that long-term planning is not just for the aging population, it's also for the special needs community. So
Sure.
now I'm able to help that community at a greater capacity in my role.
Great, great. So now you're in the home care world. So what exactly is what we call HHS or home health services? So talk about that a little bit.
Definitely. So home health services,
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of different options when it comes to home care services.
Mhm.
We're going to get into it, I know, but there's traditional home care, there's consumer directed home care, there's Medicaid funded, Medicare funded,
Mm.
private pay funded, waiver services. So home care services, just as like an umbrella term, is where a caregiver provides care within the home for an individual needing home care,
Mm.
and that caregiver assists with different activities of daily living.
Mhm.
When you think of activities of daily living, I always describe it to families as consider anything that you and I do in the morning to get ready that we take for granted.
Yep.
Grooming, dressing, bathing, toileting, meal preparation, etc. All of those things are what caregivers assist with home care services.
Yeah, and it's exactly what it is, and we both know that's what people want. People want to remain in their home. We both know there's a good time and place for the assisted living situation, as well as for safety reasons and health reasons, the whole concept of a nursing home. But ideally, the plan is for folks to stay home. That's what they want. So we've used this acronym CDPAP, and there's also something out there called CDPASS. So if you can talk about what that is, and is it any different from traditional home care?
You're talking to the right person.
Yeah.
CDPAP is my language. With CDPAP, when people hear CDPAP, they always think of the CPAP machine. It's not that, okay? CDPAP is an acronym. It stands for the Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program. And just generally speaking, it's an alternative home care program when compared to traditional services. The
Mm.
best way for me to describe it is it's a free Medicaid funded program
Mhm.
that in which someone who has Medicaid can choose their own caregiver,
Mhm.
usually a family member or a friend, to
Right.
be their paid caregiver through Medicaid.
Mm.
So some of our attendees may have already heard of this program on TV commercials or radio commercials. They tend to advertise it as get paid to care for grandma. And it is that program, but it really is, it almost does itself a disservice just to describe it as get paid to care for grandma. Because you can hire essentially anyone to be the caregiver, not just family members,
Mm.
friends, teachers' aides,
Yeah.
neighbors, church members, etc.
Yeah.
And there's so much more nuance about the program that we'll get into later. But
Sure.
just when we compare it to traditional home care is where the agency sends you a certified home health aide or personal
Mhm.
care attendant to
Mhm.
assist the individual in the home. So
Right.
comparatively speaking, either traditional, the agency sends you a caregiver, or
Mhm.
CDPAP, you choose your own caregiver, and then the agency processes the payroll and gets your family member or friend paid.
Right. So the good thing there, several good things there, but just practically as you're talking about the agency, so you get to pick the person you want, um, and you don't have to worry about the insurance, you don't have to worry about the payroll, you don't have to worry about the deductions, you don't worry about the taxes. No government people are knocking on your door, right, looking for employment taxes and so forth. It's all processed through an agency, which like community care. So how do people qualify for home health services?
So home health services, again, generally speaking,
Mhm.
is a general term. So you can call an agency, and whether you have Medicaid or
Mhm.
not, there's a way to go about
Yeah.
obtaining home care services. If you have
Sure.
Medicare, if you want to pay privately for services, but
Right.
the most cost-effective option that I know you and your team is very fluent in
Yeah.
is applying and being approved for Medicaid,
Right.
because Medicaid is the payer for long-term care.
Sure.
And it's not for the faint of heart. And I always say you need a team like your team, like a specialized team to apply and get approved for Medicaid.
Right.
Because if you do it the wrong way, and then if they don't set you up for success, meaning if they don't help you with the home care assessment, you
Right.
could actually get not approved for home care. You could get approved for Medicaid, but not approved for home care. Or
Mhm.
you could get approved for a very low amount of home care hours, which is such a waste of time for everyone. So
Sure.
you want to associate yourself with a team like yours and a
Mhm.
team like potentially mine, Community Care, to help set you up for success to obtaining Medicaid,
Yeah.
and then enrolling into an agency that can help get you a high amount of hours, and then make the enrollment as seamless as possible, which is what our team at Community Care does.
Yeah. Perfect. And that's a great way to look at it. And it has to be that team approach. We've had children and spouses walk into the office for meetings where they've tried to navigate it on their own, and you just don't know what the landmines are out there. Where's the house? Where's the assets? What's going on with the income? Can we preserve it? The assessments that you mentioned, and what's so very unique about our team and our services is we have a care team on staff, a registered nurse, the geriatric social worker, certified care coordinator. So we figuratively and literally hold our families' hands through the entire process. And those assessments, as you just said, are so crucial because that's where the hours are going to be awarded. And if you're handling that on your own, or if your mom is doing it on her own, there's a good chance that they may not get the hours that are needed. And an award of 4 hours a day is not only helpful, like you said, but it's also practically difficult because it's going to be hard to get an agency to staff that. So the more hours, the better on all fronts, 100%.
You have to
Um,
lay the foundation for success, and you have to associate yourself with specialized professionals who can
yeah.
navigate this territory. Yeah.
100%. So let's talk a little bit because there it's not always smooth sailing, as you've said. It's not for the faint of heart. So there are certain challenges out there when people are navigating this home care world and home health services in general, and even consumer directed. So what are the pitfalls and challenges people need to watch out for?
Sure. So I think a lot of people don't realize that home care, by definition from the state, is defined as a task-based program. So
Mm,
whether you go the traditional home care route, where the agency sends you a certified home health aide, or you go the CDPAP route, you
right.
have to prove during the New York State assessment
Mhm.
that the individual needs physical assistance with at least 2 to 3 activities of daily living. So it's not enough to say mom needs to be reminded to
Right.
toilet, right? Or mom needs supervision while preparing meals.
Mm,
Words like remind, supervise, monitor, and prompt,
mm,
you've already lost the battle before you've started the war, so to speak. As soon as families say that during the home care assessment, you've kind of set yourself up for a disaster, because the state right now is in debt when it comes to Medicaid.
yeah.
They're looking for any opportunity to not approve home care services or to approve a low amount of hours. And I hate putting it that way, but unfortunately, there are people who take advantage of the system.
Mhm.
And you just want to make sure that you are set up for success, and that you're best telling your loved one's story during the home care assessment, which is why it's so important that you link with your advocates, your care managers, your what's the term that
So
they're called?
ours are specifically called the elder care coordinators, or there are ECCs, and so yeah, so they're there to help advocate and let's say coach and prompt and literally show the Medicaid applicant, and this is going to sound harsh, but it's the reality. We want to show that applicant at their worst, on their worst day, because that's when you need the most help, right? Thank you for bringing up our care coordinators. So we have many clients together. So how exactly do our care coordinators and your services work together?
When I hear from a family and they say that they're using the Tully team, I literally can like have a sigh of relief. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Okay.
because because I know that they've already been provided like the step-by-step, here's what
Yeah,
you're going to expect,
yeah,
here's
yeah,
the
yeah.
next steps. Whereas sometimes other families, when you're not connected with like a certain law firm that is like giving you the guidance,
Yeah.
you're so confused, you're so overwhelmed.
Mm,
So where your team steps in is really to help with the Medicaid application and approval
mm,
process,
mhm.
getting them set up for success with the home care assessment.
Yeah.
Our team can do that as well. However, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest because we are the home care agency. So there's only so much that we can really intervene with
Hmm.
preparation.
Hmm.
So that's really where your team comes in. But then once you get the green light from the state that home care services are approved, it's our team that literally picks you up like a mama bear and runs with you to the finish line. I always say the Medicaid application process is the hardest part of the process. Once you connect with community care, our enrollment can be done 100% remotely for CDPAP. You
Hmm.
never have to meet with me in person unless you really want to. Um, and everything can be done like via a DocuSign, auto populates the forms. It's really easy. And then with our traditional home care services, we've been doing this for 38 years. And
Hmm.
just a little plug, a little shameless plug, we have a 4.9 out of 5-star rating and 545 reviews on Google.
Wow.
That's not a humble brag. That's just the facts. And I like to say that because agencies tend to get reviews when people are dissatisfied and not always satisfied. So the fact that we have that many reviews
Mhm.
should give families peace
Mhm.
of mind that, we're not a mom and pop shop that doesn't know what they're doing. Like your team, we're established, we're very well versed.
That's right. That's right, for sure. So in the big picture, and you said earlier about Medicaid in underwater financially and so forth. So are there any changes? I mean, so what's coming down the pike? Because we'll sit with folks and they'll talk about a look back period that's 7 years or 10 years, and which isn't the case. There's the look back for nursing home care only. There's a potential look back for home care. So there's always changes in the world of Medicaid that can happen. But what are you seeing in the home care world? What are you seeing specifically in the consumer directed world?
Well, Brian, you're talking to someone who just a few months ago was lobbying on the steps of Albany. That was
Yep,
me.
I remember seeing you doing that. Yep.
There was a viral video that was on News 12. It was me.
Cool.
So changes specific to CDPAP. CDPAP is a Medicaid funded program. The state right now is in debt when it comes to Medicaid. Our government officials are just trying to obviously cut costs and streamline Medicaid funded programs just as a whole. CDPAP is on the budget, and what they're trying to do is consolidate from all the different agencies right now that families have to choose from, like community care or agencies, throughout the state of New York. They're
Right.
trying to consolidate all of those agencies to save money, is the theory, into one agency that's actually based out of Georgia, which is a little bit concerning. And I don't really want to go too much into my own opinion, but the reason why this is not great for families is
Mhm.
because CDPAP started back in the 1970s on a foundation of control and choices, allowing families to choose not only their own caregivers, but which agency they enroll into, because
Mm.
every agency has different customer service,
Sure.
response times, pay rates for the caregivers,
Yep.
benefits for the caregivers.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
community care has a 401k and health insurance for the caregivers. Other agencies don't have that. So
Yeah.
if you now don't have any choices for the caregivers and someone's approved for CDPAP, and maybe their only option is CDPAP because they live in a rural area like the East
Mm.
End of Long Island or
Mm.
way upstate in New York, and
Sure.
you can't get a certified caregiver out there.
Right.
If CPAP is the only option and your loved one, your family member doesn't like that the state's new agency is only paying like $15 or $16 an hour, what's your alternative? To go into a facility setting?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
that's the fear.
Right.
So choice is always a good thing. A
Mm,
monopoly is never a good thing. So
mm,
that's what's pending. So right now, our government officials are saying that as of April 1st, this consolidation may happen, but I'm continuing to lobby and advocate. As Brian, I know you get my emails. So as of now, community care is just staying the course, and we're just still helping families enroll into CDPAP because, believe it or not, this has happened about 3 times in the past 4 years, something similar in nature, and nothing actually came to fruition.
yeah.
So we're just continuing to be calm under
Right.
this.
Good. Let's hope it's just their saber rattling and then them trying to shake it up a little bit. But I'm going to agree with you 1,000%. Families have different needs, and companies provide services in different ways. And having that choice and having that independence and being able to choose who you want to work with, 100%, it's the right way to go. Outsourcing it or even outsourcing it to one agency or even an out of state agency doesn't even make sense. Doesn't even make sense. All right, so keep up the good fight there, Megan. Now, you've been doing this for a while. So give us a little bit of a story. Give us a story of a family that you've been able to help. I know there's a lot of them, but give us a story of a family you've been able to help where everything kind of just flowed and you've been able to help them stay at home successfully. Give us that scenario.
I love this story. So
Good.
this child I've actually known since he was 3, and he has
Mm,
special needs. I'm going to get into the details of what he has because it's pertinent to the story.
yeah.
So he has autism,
Mm,
nonverbal, adult diapers, elopement, self-injurious behavior towards himself and others, and he
mm,
has a seizure disorder which requires rescue seizure medication like through the nostrils. So think about this individual. And when I first met him, he was 3. And now I've known him, now he's 22. And
mm,
when he first applied for CPAP services, he was only approved for 40 hours a week. And I'm thinking nonverbal, autistic, interest behavior, elopement risk, diapers. If he doesn't qualify for like 7 days, 24 hours a day, who
right.
does?
Right.
His father works on Wall Street and
Mm,
has to sleep with him in bed in a sleeping bag to prevent defecation and to prevent him from leaving the house. His
mm,
mother had to quit her full-time job to care for him.
mm,
And she was really banking on getting a lot of hours because she can't hold a full-time job otherwise. So he was only approved for 40 hours a week. This family was devastated.
mm,
So what I did was I helped them identify a new significant change in his clinical condition, as you know, to justify a new home care assessment. I helped them identify what needs to really be written on the MD order form for the doctor to identify, the task-based needs of what he
mm,
needs physical assistance with.
okay.
Then once they were approved for that new home care assessment, I kindly reminded the family task-based. You can't say supervise, monitor, prompt, remind, while being truthful, of course. I'm not asking you to lie, but you have to tell the right story, the actual factual story.
Yep.
And now I'm happy to report that instead of 40 hours a week, they have 148 hours a week, which
Wow.
is not 7 days, 24 hours a day, but it's damn close.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. And so that's a real situation that needed real advocacy, and you put that together and you did it. That's wonderful. And what I'll share too, and I'm sure you'll agree, whether it's that type of a scenario or a scenario with an aging parent with dementia, though there's big similarities in cases and care needs, and I'm sure you got 100 of those stories too. It's just, yeah,
We
100%.
do. And I'm so proud to say community care. I mean, the great thing about CDPAP is that it doesn't discriminate based on age.
Mhm.
So there is no minimum age or maximum age of who can receive services. We
Right.
have 2-year-olds on our program and 102 plus year olds on our program. I think we have a 108-year-old in Rochester on our program.
Wow. That's
Yeah, I think she's the oldest person in Rochester.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, we're just so proud of it, and we couldn't do what we do without the team like yours. And I have to say, we service virtually all of New York State. We are so selective with who we work with in regards to like a law firm team because
Mm.
you are who you associate yourself with. So I just have to thank you for the great work that your team
No,
always.
Megan, it's a great relationship, and we all know that there's different entities and different firms and different companies with different services and specialties and so forth. But when you have two companies like ours that are working together, we know that the family is going to be settled and taken care of 100%. So what kind of advice? So we have viewers, people are watching, and people are going to watch this for a while, the recording afterward. What kind of advice? So if people are saying, all right, I know mom needs care, or I know my spouse needs care, and what kind of advice would you give to them as far as pursuing this, and where should they go next? And obviously the Medicaid work, the asset protection, the planning and so forth, that has to get addressed. But how would you walk them through that to say, listen, don't, there's really nothing to be afraid of here? Yeah.
It's a really arduous process,
Mm,
and the worst time to get your feet wet with this pathway, or like, this the nuances of assessing care, is in a moment or a climate of chaos. So you want to get to know the players and the people that you can depend on well before there's a moment of chaos.
mhm.
And I recently had a health scare myself, and a few years ago, and I was so thankful to be able to lean on you, Brian,
Yeah,
like
right.
when that happened. And imagine if I didn't have you as a connection when that happened. I wouldn't be able to make like a well-informed decision knowing
Mhm.
who I can lean on in this industry. So before a climate or a moment of chaos, mom falls, there's a diagnosis,
Right.
etc., you want to connect with the good players of people, and just have like a file in your office at home or something, that you can reference, so that when something happens, you're not freaking out and just making a rash decision.
That's a great point. And the whole idea, a lot of what we do is help people try to plan and protect in advance. And when we're working with a family situation where we don't have care needs yet, or they just don't rise to the situation of needing outside help just yet, we'll tell families, listen, once you're a part of our team, you're a part of our family, and we're a phone call away. And our work isn't transactional, just like yours isn't. You're here, you're building relationships, and you're helping that family for the remainder of their loved one's time. So I couldn't agree more. Planning in advance and knowing who to call, and making sure they already know the family, know the background, so we can hit the ground running. Great point. And don't forget, to our viewers, if you have questions, Megan and I are available for questions at the end. And so what I want to share now, though, or I want you, please, Megan, to share, how can people contact you? How can they reach out to you? How can they contact community care if they have more specific questions about their families?
Definitely. So what I'll do is, when I'm finished, I'll put it in the chat box, my email address and my phone number. But just simply go onto our website. So for CDPAP, it's communitycarecdpap.com. And our general website is communitycarehhs for homehealthservices.com.
Yep.
But regardless, reach out to me, Google us, Community Care, Home
Mhm.
Health Services. You have to type in the word Smithtown because that's our corporate office. Because unfortunately, there's many agencies with similar names. So Community Care, Home Health Services, Smithtown. Look at the ratings, look at the reviews. You'll see my name sprinkled in the reviews quite often. And I think that is a testament to like the intimacy, or like the intimate nature of our team, where it's like, we know what's going on. We're making sure that our families are hand holded, just like you always do with your team, with the clients that you serve.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Megan. It's been great for us to get this out there, this information. Is there anything you wanted to share in parting? Will I see if there's any questions, any final words of wisdom here? Let's see if
Not
we.
necessarily. I'm not sure. Oh, actually, I do see the chat. So I'm going to put my information in the chat
Good,
box, and then you can start with the question.
good. So here we go. So an anonymous attendee asked, "Do you help families who need help with an appeal?"
I sure do. That's
Okay,
my specialty. Yes.
okay, good.
So again, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on
Right.
TV. Let's just get that straight, right? But I've been doing specifically CDPAP for 12 years, so
Mhm.
I'm well familiar.
Right, right. And then there are also Medicaid appeals and so forth. And yes, on the legal side, we handle that too. Um, so what is your experience with home care for overnight? Why is it denied so often? Like that 24/7 you mentioned earlier. Why is that
It
so hard to get?
it's
Why is it
denied.
denied?
It's denied because during the home care assessment, the family is not adequately expressing the needs for overnight care.
Mm,
So it's important that, of course, you have to be truthful, you have to be honest, but during the home care assessment, you have to express that the individual, the specific that they need overnight assistance with, turning and positioning, maybe guarding while walking, while toileting, physical assistance with toileting, physically preventing an elopement risk, medication administration. Those are really the only qualifiers that I know of for like overnight care. So it's not enough. I have so many families that come to me and say, oh, it's okay. The nurse assessor is going to quickly see mom and just know that she needs 24/7. You can't bank on that. And I know, Brian, you know, like you've seen that all the time where people are like almost too self-assured. And I'm like, you can't be self-assured and too confident. And Brian, if you could just help me, I'm not able to put my information
So
in.
that's what I'm seeing here. Yeah. So I'll do that. I'll stick that. So people are using the Q&A here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in there. So I'm putting in the Q&A box the Megan's direct email and her phone number. So that should be out there. Oh, it's in there as an answer. Okay, we'll figure out the technology part, but it is in.
I would say any attendees can just contact your team and they know
Oh,
how to reach.
100%. Yeah, 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 of course. Oh, there's more questions popping up here, so let's keep going. So what is elopement risk?
Elopement risk, and again, I'm not a clinician, so I don't know if I'm getting the definition right, but it is when someone is like a danger to themselves because they're kind of like leaving the environment. Like they're trying to leave the house, or you know, it's almost, it's like similar to or it can be pervasive in like sundowning. I think even like with the elderly
Sure,
population.
sure.
Individuals with autism tend to have elopement. It's when they're trying to leave the environment, and it's a risk. They could run into traffic. They could leave the home. It's a danger
Yeah.
to them. Yeah.
Yep. Another word is wandering. You know, it's trying to
True.
leave
Yeah.
the house and so forth. Um, and the good old word eloping, right? So that you're just leaving. There you go.
They're not getting married.
All right. So, are there income limits for Medicaid? So, I'll address that one, and the answer is yes. There's asset issues, there's income issues, and of course there's care requirements. And we're not going to, unfortunately, today we don't have the time or the ability to get into all of those details. What I would suggest is if you go to our website, tullyelderlaw.com. There's webinars that I've been doing for years that talk about Medicaid eligibility. So again, tullyelderlaw.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel, Tully Law Group for YouTube, and that way you can just see different Medicaid eligibility videos talking about it. But there are income limits, but gratefully there are ways to shelter excess income within reason. How do you transition from community Medicaid to transitional Medicaid? So again, that's going to be more on the legal side. Obviously, the care need has to increase from the community level to more of a nursing facility level, but it's transitioning the Medicaid application. And sometimes it's even ending the community-based Medicaid services and starting new with the institutional services. And depending how long the person's been on community Medicaid, it could be a little bit more of a straighter road, or it could be a little more complicated. So I would reach out to our firm and you could talk to our Medicaid team on how to do that. What's the first step in applying for Medicaid? How do we know if my dad would be eligible? Do you want to handle that, or would you like me to?
No, I'll let you handle it. You.
Okay. So, so the first step in applying for Medicaid is going to be speaking with a firm such as ourselves. And what you'll notice is we are, if you see any of our materials, we are an elder care law firm. And elder care is where we focus on the care just as much as the law aspect of it. So eligibility for Medicaid, as I mentioned briefly a moment ago, is about a person's assets, a person's income, and how much care they need. So aligning those three and ensuring eligibility prior to and addressing look back issues if there's a nursing home need, or making sure it's all taken care of before community Medicaid starts a home care look back, it's an entire process. Gratefully, there's no look back for home care yet, so we're able to protect and preserve assets, and we can shelter the income. Irrevocable trusts are often used depending on the type of assets that people have. But it'll be reaching out to a firm like ours to talk about it. That's the best way to do it. And we don't have consultation charges, they're free consultations. All right, I did see a question in here that I missed. I know I missed it. Maybe the person deleted it. I do not see another question here. Okay. All right. So thank you all for your questions. Megan?
I do see one question. It says, what if I don't have Medicaid and never will?
Okay, so I saw that before. I don't see it again.
I think I erroneously answered it with my contact information.
Oh, Maybe it disappeared. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
do.
So may I answer that?
Yeah, please.
If you're looking for long-term care, and there is a saying, and I don't know how like PC it is, but there are even millionaires on Medicaid. It's really just about how you kind of put your assets aside and how you plan,
Yeah.
which is why you really have to connect with the right team to do that.
Mhm.
But if you are adamant that you're never going to be appropriate for Medicaid, for
Right.
long-term home care services, you can pay privately for home care services. It's going to be, a little bit of a cost burden, but when comparatively speaking, I think everyone could argue you would rather age in your home with the privacy and peace of mind in your home rather than in a facility setting. So you can always just connect with myself or our team at Community Care. We do have among the lowest rates for private pay home care services. But hopefully it gives people peace of mind, because again, a facility setting really should be, I think, the last resort for people.
Agreed. Agreed. A couple more questions popped up while you're answering that. The question is, how long is the asset look back for Medicaid? And the answer is home care is still 0. There's a 2.5 year look back out there on the shelf. It yet hasn't yet been implemented. It might be starting in 2025. It might be starting in 2026. It might never start. But the reality is, in our opinion, is it's going to start probably over the next 12 to 18 months, which means you want your planning and your protection taken care of as soon as possible to start that clock so that it's already running once the law starts. And then nursing home Medicaid has been 5 years and will continue to be 5 years. Now, there's another question here. Hi, Brian. Learned about your firm through the Alzheimer's Association and have attended the support groups in the past. My question is, does your firm also do estate planning? And the answer, Tammy, is yes. So our branding is elder care and estate planning. So it's younger, less health concerns at that point. Yes, of course we do wills and trusts and planning for younger people. Just give us a call. Thank you for asking, Tammy. And it looks like here we go. Another question here. Does the application process for Medicaid require a law firm? And I'll answer that, and the answer is no. It does not require a law firm. Just like a lot of things don't require a law firm. You can defend yourself if you're arrested. You can pursue your own divorce as a pro se person. But when you have a law firm, you're going to be guided by people and attorneys that are experienced, knowing what perhaps you might not know. And that's always the greatest fear when we're doing things that we're unsure of. We don't know what we don't know. And then there are some things that do need to be accomplished by a law firm. And only a lawyer that's licensed in the state is actually able to practice law. So the implementation of an irrevocable trust, how laws and rules and regulations apply to you and your assets and so forth, that should be done by a law firm. I have, in my 26 years of doing this, directed some potential clients to charities or other organizations to handle the Medicaid work because they didn't need us. And in a case like that, there's minimal assets, there's a minimal income, and it's really just filling out a form. If there are assets to protect, income to protect, care challenges, then you're certainly going to want us to assist you throughout the way. Last question here, Megan. Can another insurance company such as Cigna, for example, pay for CDPAP, or is it really just Medicaid?
I saw that question. So
Yeah.
CDPAP specifically as a program is only Medicaid funded.
Right,
So the
right. So
answer
it's only through community Medicaid. Yep, got it.
is
All right. So we are good. Megan, as always, thank you for joining us and for being our guest. Thank you for those that were able to join us and view. And again, tullyelderlaw.com. If you have questions for us, you want to reach out to us, or Community Care HHS Smithtown.
well, or Community Care HHS Smithtown. You can Google or just communitycarehhs.com.
There we go.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Brian.
Thank you. You're very welcome. All right. Bye bye,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.